Hello there, everybody. Welcome to so that I've been having a glorious week when it comes to the weather. Real spring weather with so much sunshine and heat and everything. It feels like definitely like it's close to summer. Can you imagine? It's end of April. In around 2 months, the summer season starts, where hopefully everybody's having flea markets in their gardens. They're renting some local places and putting them up tables there, and maybe I can find great records there, or am I just dreaming? Maybe, but maybe it will be reality, because this summer is usually the season for people doing that. Well, we're not here to look that further ahead. We're here to look in the past. And the month that has been going on is the vinyl CD update for April. And April was a okay month when it comes to outside of the fairs. There's been 2 fairs this month, and I've been already showing the record from those. So these records will not, of course, be here. But otherwise, I've been buying some stuff here and there, and come up with pretty acceptable stack of records in the forms CD singles, vinyl singles, CDs, and vinyl albums, full length. Starting with CD singles, a little nice stack that I managed to find with amazing quality, I might add. All of them are from, I think, around the 2000s, with exception from one. Sophie Alex Baxter, Music Gets the Best of Me, from 2002. We have Swedish group The Ark, Echo Chamber. The Ark is a bit of 80s music style combined with glam rock style, at least for the first album, which I think is the best one. The first 3 singles and the first album. After that, I think it went pretty much downhill, because they went too much of glam rock style, in my opinion. This is from 2000. Great song. We have, as you might remember in my calling video, I removed 2 of the modern Madonna albums from my collection, MDNA and Hard Candy. So I am making that up by buying a single from the one album from the OOs that I feel is good, Confessions on the Dance Floor, Jump. We have the group Texas, who I think is from Scotland, and their album Inner Smile. Who like that sleeve? Charlene Spiteri in a pose pretty much like Elvis' comeback from 1968. We have Robbie Williams, Supreme, from 2000. And we have Swedish Eurodance artist E-Type, featuring Nana Hedin and Paradise. And we have Australian Icehouse with a 1997 version of their classic song Hey Little Girl. Hopefully this one is somewhat really good. Normally when bands take one of the classic songs and put them in 90s costume in it, it doesn't become all that good. With the New Order's 95 version of Blue Monday fresh in memory that I showed in my calling video. But still, it's a great song. Hopefully it will be good. If not, they have put the original version in. And to, I guess, many surprise, Limp Bizkit, rollin', 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 rollin'. And normally I don't like this new metal style that came in the OOs. I thought that was dreadfully boring and totally horrible. But there are always exceptions, and this is the exception of that rule. I actually think that Rollin' with Limp Bizkit is good. It's a good drive in the song, really great produced and a great melody. We have vinyl singles. So, starting with Yazoo and Only You, I thought I had this one, but I didn't recognize this sleeve actually. Situation at the B-side. We have some really 70s classics. Lynn Anderson, I Never Promised You a Rose Garden, and Nothing Between Us at the B-side. Stevie Wonder from the Journey Through the Secret Life of Plants album. Send One Your Love. Gary Rafferty, Baker Street. Big Change in the Weather at the B-side. Now coming to a couple more of the singles that I showed in the previous vinyl CD update. Those that were a lot of writing on the cover sleeves, and it said Chris and so on, and it was 70s soul. Those that where the sleeve wasn't all that good, the records themselves were in amazing great shape. I had to buy a couple more of those singles. We have Graham Central Station and Tonight and You're a Foxy Lady from 1979. I don't know how I could have missed that one. And we have She Lights, released on Brunswick of all labels, and You Don't Have to Go, and Toby. Now I'm coming to a couple of singles that I bought yesterday for only $1. No, sorry, 10 cent. 10 cent. 10 cent they costed. And then when they are as that cheap, of course there are a lot of blind buys of bands that I had no idea what it was. But this one was great. I listened to them and half of the stack wasn't all that interesting, half of it was. This is Dawn. Not Tony Orlando and Dawn, because this is from the album Candida. And at that time, Tony Orlando was contracted in another place and didn't want to risk any legal issues by having his name on another label. So they just called it Dawn. What Are You Doing Sunday? And Sweet Soft Sounds of Love. We have the Pasadenas that I like in very normal doses. I think they have made some really great singles, but I had albums with them and they don't hold for an entire album in my opinion. It gets too boring. But this is interesting. Love Thing from 1990, and He'll Give You All, some gospel tune at the B-side. We have some Swedish lager singer Lasse Lönndahl in an EP. And we have Inger Öst, a Swedish lager female singer. The Swedish version of Touch Me in the Morning, Sov hos mig imorgon. Coming to those that I wasn't all that interested in. Air Supply, All Out of Love. Many of you might know this. I haven't listened all that much to Air Supply, so for me it was a little test. And I don't know, this was a pretty uninteresting ballad. I think that it was pretty stale, so no, it wasn't my cup of tea actually. This was a complete blind buy. I had no idea. I was hoping that it would be so hilariously stupid that it would be funny, but I don't know. Mr. Walkie Talkie, Be My Boogie Woogie Baby, and Lolly Loving Cup. It plays on some kind of, this is from 1970, and it doesn't say, but it sounds 76. It plays on some kind of a ancient synthesizer, not a Moog, but some ancient synthesizer that sounds horrible, and it wasn't interesting at all. It wasn't as bad, so bad so it was funny. It was just uninteresting and boring. So this one will not stay in the collection. Arrow and Groove Master. I bought this one because I thought it would be some kind of a 80s house track, but it was some kind of a 80s African style to it, African disco rhythm style, and I thought it was pretty boring actually, so this one didn't live up to my expectations. The Art Company, One Cup of Coffee from 1987. Susanna was a great song. The album that Susanna is on is actually a great album, but that was it, because the later version of Art Company, like this one from 87, was very, very, very uninteresting. Some kind of a singing choir with some country style almost. I thought it was extremely bad. And finally, when it comes to singles, this is a band I heard in old Swedish radio shows, Borgå Tag, and Waiting for the World to Turn. It's produced by Todd Rundgren, but I thought it was pretty strange, and the melody was totally in chaos. Never know what way it would take. I thought it was pretty. I lost interest in 1 or 2 minutes. So the singles. Moving on to CDs. We have. Normally, I don't buy these kind of jazz tributes from one composer or something like that, because normally they are low budgets musicians, or low budget releases, or they are songs or recordings that I have tons of. So I was a bit hesitating when I saw this tribute to George Gershwin, released by Italian low-budget label Giants of Jazz. But when I looked at the songs, it was a whole lot of recordings that I'd never heard of, that I didn't have. Jerry Mulligan, Lee Konitz, and Chet Baker, Oh Lady Be Good. Could hardly hear that it is that song. Coleman Hawkins and Oscar Peterson. We have Oscar Peterson, Ray Brown, along with Ella Fitzgerald and Lou Armstrong. We have Thelonious Monk, Miles Davis and Sonny Rollins. You have Chico Hamilton, Stan Getz and Herb Ellis, and even an Art Tatum piano solo, and that one I had actually. So there were, but it was otherwise a whole lot that I actually didn't have. So I bought this one, tribute to George Gershwin, and I listened to it, and it was actually pretty good, with the exception from the Charlie Mingus version of A Foggy Day. That was pretty much uninteresting, but otherwise it was really, really good album actually, with a whole lot of interesting and different versions. didn't sound like something I've heard before actually. So we have American house soul group Force MDs that I've heard some songs with before from the 80s, and actually they have done a lot of great production of other artists also, so I took a chance of this one, Step to Me from 1990. We have a compilation with Fine Young Cannibal, The Finest, from 96. And here we have all the classics. She Drives Me Crazy, Johnny Come Home, Good Things, Suspicious Mind, Blue, and so on. Missing I'm Not Satisfied from the Raw and the Cooked album. I really thought that was that album's best track, and it was released as a single, but it's not here unfortunately. But I still have very high hopes for this one. Feels good to have a Fine Young Cannibals compilation, even though their first album was their best album. This one was a disappointment. It was a compilation I found with or something like that, with Chet Baker, called This Is Jazz. And it looked pretty good. It contained strange setups actually. It was half of the album was from one album and the other half was from another album. So they didn't have mixed it up actually really good, but half of the album was from an album called Chet Baker with Strings, with Chet Baker, Zoot Sims, Russ Freeman, and so on, Shelly Manne, and those were really good. They were recordings from 53 and 54. Those were really good. But the other half of the album was from an album called She Was Good to Me from 1974. That contained Paul Desmond, and that was pretty much the only name I recognized. And that one wasn't all that good because it had electric piano instead of ordinary piano, and I'm not all that fond when they have a jazz orchestra and they have electric piano, because it sounds so extremely fake in my eyes, in my ears. I want a real piano, so I wasn't all that interested in those songs actually. And since it is songs from only 2 albums, I realized that I much rather was looking for this Chet Baker with Strings album than keep a bad album where half of the songs are very bad. So this one will most likely not stay in the collection. A double CD set with Kylie Minogue called Showgirl Homecoming Live from 2007. You can see here, classics upon classics. And the Hooters live. I remember when I said before that I did some broadcasting of community radio in the 90s, and in 96 I remember, I think this was the album that I used and played for a couple of times in community radio back then in 96, and I think I even made a jingle, a promo jingle for with the applause and the cheering from one of the songs. But it's Hooters and it's live, and it is all of these classics: Satellite, Boys Will Be Boys, Carla with a K. Only All Your Zombies is not here, but still I have high hopes for this one. And now, finally, the full length. Starting with an album that I was very disappointed with. You who saw my Calling video saw that I got rid of one album with Rockwell that I thought was pretty uninteresting. So when I ran into another album with Rockwell, his most famous, Somebody's Watching Me, I thought that, well, since that one is a good song, and it is his most famous song after all, maybe this one is better. So I gave Rockwell another chance with his debut, Somebody's Watching Me. But that song is great, although it's a bit overplayed. But the rest of the album was not horrible, but extremely boring. Production was extremely stale. The melodies were also very stale, and it was just uninteresting. So this one will not stay in the collection, and with that I give up on Rockwell, with exception from Somebody's Watching Me. This one was very, very good, even though it doesn't have the best rumors. I'm talking about David Bowie's Never Let Me Down. A lot of people have said that this is David Bowie's worst album. I don't agree. I think it's very underrated. I listened to it, and it is. I'm of course can compare it to Ziggy Stardust or Hunky Dory and Low and albums like that. But I think it is a really good album. It is 80s rock with some pop in the edges, and great album to just put on and turn the volume up and just relax. And I think it is way better than its reputation. Even though, of course, none of the songs will be a David Bowie classic, but still, it is a great album, actually. An anthology of the Commodores, double record set with compilation. I bought this one because I felt like, okay, I don't think that In the Pocket is here, but something in the Pocket is here. But I felt like the Commodores were at their best in the 70s during the Lionel Richie era. When he quit, even though Night Shift is a great song, I think Commodores in the 80s were very stale. So I felt like if I want a compilation with the Commodores, I think I want one from the 70s, and this is it. I've shown this one before. This Benny Goodman album with spirals. That's the back. I've shown this one before. Horrible sleeve quality, but still very, very interesting. And I also have shown that I have a lot of records from Benny Goodman's Carnegie Hall concert in 1938, the iconic, important jazz concert when jazz stepped into the finer rooms. But I felt like I couldn't leave this one behind because, as I can tell, this is from the same series as this one, because this has also spiral back, and it's released on Philips. And I felt like this one, who is of course older, I want some version that is in the same series as this unique one. So felt like I gotta have this one. Then how many of these other Carnegie Hall albums I will keep is another story, but that's good to have. We have George Ben and Salve Simpatia from 1979. Brazilian music, Brazilian MPB music. And we have an artist that I haven't listened to all that much, but This album contains a song that I've heard before in Swedish radio, and I found the song, and I felt like, why not buy it and give it a chance, because this song is actually good. I'm talking about Julian Cope. The song Trampoline is really, really good. I've heard it before, as I said. So I felt like, why not give this album from then, 1987's St. Julian, a chance. The cover was so-so, but the album was really, really good. It surprised me. Guitar pop with a little rocky style, and it was a really, really good album, actually. So this one will definitely stay in the collection. I was surprised of how good it was, actually. Alexander O'Neill, coming into some 80s soul. Alexander O'Neill, produced by Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis from 1985. I think this is his debut. Broken Heart Can Mend and so on. I think I have this one on a cassette copy, but now I have it in a real vinyl version. I showed before an album without a cover sleeve by an artist called Alan O'Day that I got for free by a friend, and I had no idea who that was, but now I managed to find another album with cover sleeve from the same artist, also from the 70s. This one is from 79, so I felt like, why not? If the first one was really good, then this one also might be it, especially when it contains both Jay Graydon and Victor Feldman here. This is Oh Johnny, and it is some kind of singer-songwriter style with some pop style, and some song might be a little bit cheesy, but it's a really good album, actually. So I definitely feel like Alan O'Day is an artist that has grown on me. More Brazilian music. Normally I don't buy all that much Sergio Mendes, because a lot of his orchestral works are pretty close to easy listening, in my opinion. But this one I had to have because it felt so... I never seen this Sergio Mendes like this before. In a Sergio Mendes trio. That was pretty unique, so I felt like I gotta have it. Trio and trio. They have Rosinia de Valencia at guitar, and they have Bud Skank on saxophone and flute on some, but it's still in a much smaller band constellation than I ever have seen in Sergio Mendes. And the voice of Wanda de Sá, vocals in both in Portuguese and English, but still a great album. I listen to it, it's very smooth, very soft and relaxing. And finally, the two that I showed in my video from the vinyl record store day, The Mission and Carve din Sand, I think Carve din Sand, I think it's pronounced, from 1990. Listen to quick peeks of it, and it sounds really, really great production. Sounds very interesting, so I'm going to be very interesting to listen to the full album of this one, The Mission. And finally, Art Blakey and the Jazz Messenger, Greatest Hits. I have had hesitation about this one, because it contains moaning that I have 3 verses on 3 different vinyl singles, and Blues March that I don't think is all that interesting, but it costed $5 and it was Blue Note, and I felt like it was Night in Tunisia and it was only Paper Moon, so I felt, why not? I get this one with the Jazz Messengers. You know, so often I find a Blue Note for a pretty low price. And I listened to it, and it is okay. Not Art Blakey's best album, but still it's a really good jazz bop album. So I definitely will keep this one. So that was my vinyl and CD update. Now we're more going into May, and then, as I said, we're going into the summer. So until next time, I hope that every one of you enjoys the sunshine, if you have that, or enjoys life wherever you are. So take care, everybody, and see ya.